Welcome back to another podcast episode where we help aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. Today, we're going to be going over LearningFuze, another coding bootcamp. I invited 3 graduates on to talk about their experience. And as always, we're going to start with the intros. Kevin, if you want to give a short intro about yourself, like what industry did you come from? What are you doing now? And the cool lighting in the background, we're just going to shout that out as well. Go for it.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name's Kevin Tolentino. I'm a software engineer that went to LearningFuze last year from February to May. Wow, it's 2021. And I have a background in Christian pastoral ministry. And now I'm currently interning remotely for a startup in kind of the Bay Area, Northern California called Restfo. And they were creating a learning platform mentorship for churches and nonprofits. And I'm also scheduled to be an intern as a software dev this spring for a nonprofit called Compassion International, which I'm really excited about.
That's really cool. Congratulations on that. Nice.
Thank you.
Remind me again, maybe I just missed it. What industry did you come from? Did you have like a full-time job before you went to the coding bootcamp?
Yeah, so I was working as a data entry clerk and also being equipped to become a pastor. And then after that, I switched to go into coding.
I love it. Okay. So I'm a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for a few different companies. There's going to be a point where I'm going to start saying I'm something different because I actually quit my last position to basically build a mentorship company for software engineers. And so I help people get over their imposter syndrome and try to build confidence in people. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I actually came really quirky background. I have a psychology degree and I became an aquatics director and then I became a software engineer. It's a very quirky journey. How about you, Jerry?
So my background, my last job I worked for as an assistant for an occupational therapist. I did full scheduling for him. He's the lead OT and I worked with all his assistants. And at the same time, I was going to Cal LA to finish my bachelor's in economics and statistics. I was thinking about quitting that midway just to join the bootcamp early on, but I was just like, man, let me just finish what I started. And then I took like 6 months off, then I hopped into LearningFuze. That's what I did.
Nice. And where are you at now?
I'm currently looking for work. But the last 4 months, I was volunteering for a company in Australia doing remote work. They're called Respio Technologies. They're a startup helping children. It's an app that communicates through this little device that attaches to children and tells their parents that they're about to have an asthma attack. So I was developing just their website for them.
That's really cool.
Pretty much finished with that.
Okay, that sounds really impactful. Very nice. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, so I've had kind of a wide and varied background. I graduated with a degree in economics from UC Davis and didn't really use it outside of school. I became a banquet bartender. I worked at the UPS. I worked at IKEA, retail. The last job I had was an accounts receivable clerk. And so I was just bouncing around to all these industries, not quite sure where I'd fit in, and found that coding was it was something that I was really passionate about. And I found that I was driven towards it. So at that point, I looked for a boot camp and I found LearningFuze. I graduated from LearningFuze in October of 2020. And I'm currently still in the job search, looking around, trying to find a place for me at some of these companies, either a startup, midsize, or a large company. And in the meantime, I'm working on my own projects. One of the things that I'm pretty proud of is a volunteer project to build websites for people who are, it's for local businesses in the Southern California area who don't currently have websites and are kind of being impacted by this COVID, shutdowns and things.
Okay. I love it. All right, really cool. All right, thank you for the intros. I love hearing about everyone's backgrounds before you go into coding bootcamp. Let's get started. I'm excited for this. So we'll just kind of start with what was the application process like?
Yeah, so,
I should probably say this. We're going to talk over each other with this style of podcast. Don't worry about it. Give it 15 minutes and it's going to be smooth after that, but go on.
sounds good. My application process was, I don't know if they changed it since COVID happened, but we had 2 prep courses that we had to do. So it's 2 weeks of HTML, CSS, and 2 weeks of JavaScript. I think the commitment was like 10 hours a week. And that's when we used to go into the building. So you would go into LearningFuze building and do kind of like a lecture about basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then after you completed those prep courses, there was an interview screen with the career services coordinator and the career services specialist for like an hour, hour and a half. I think to get into the actual full-time program, you need to take an assessment. So they wanted to make sure that your JavaScript is really up to date and everything. So they had a screening on that, and then once you pass all those things, I think you're approved to get into the program.
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience. I live in Texas at the moment, so I was not there for any of the on-campus stuff. So all of my interactions with LearningFuze have been fully remote. And they offered us, it was the same application process. I had a interview with their career services advisor, and he was kind of feeling out why I wanted to join a boot camp in the first place and what was driving me towards a boot camp. I asked if I had any questions for them, and then from there he sent me the assessment, and it was an assessment, but he also gave us prep material. So we had the option to either take that prep course, or we could do kind of like a self-learning from some of the links that he sent. And from there, it's taken the assessment, wait a couple days, see how to do on it. And then it was, we actually talked with, I think their CEO, I think, and the CEO went over like the payment methods and what LearningFuze offers in terms of like the career services afterwards, and just to tie up any sort of like other questions you might have and walk you through the process a bit before you actually jump in and get into the courses.
Okay. Sounds pretty good. Anything unique besides that, Jerry, that you experienced?
How they explained it was the process is pretty similar for everybody. I just had the first interview with our career counselor, TJ, talked about what they offered, what I expected. Like they want people that could commit. They don't want people to like finish, 3 weeks in. So just to see how it was. Then he talked about the assessment. Then after I did the assessment, I talked to Bill, I believe he's the CEO, and he talked about payment. And that was pretty much it. Like, I was pretty committed, so it was pretty easy. Like, didn't have any problems.
Okay, sounds good. I like that. I like that they're trying to reduce the dropout rate and really filter people out that were going to take it seriously. Do you feel like the technical screening was easy or difficult?
I think for now that I look back at it, it's pretty easy. Now that I think back like
right.
a year, but like, at the time I was just like, dude, this is pretty hard.
Same.
Okay.
It's funny because my younger brother actually wrote that test.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I didn't want to ask him for help at all because like I didn't want to cheat or anything. I was just like,
yeah.
He told me afterwards. He was like, he looked at my answer. He's like, ooh, you have a little mistakes here and there, but it's basically just JavaScript, like just all that logic. After doing all these like edit problems, I feel like it's really helped me along the way just to build that logic. Like it's I think if you're exposed to JavaScript for a while, you can really do it.
Yeah, I think it was. Oh, I think it was geared towards. Sorry, Michael. You can go after it. I think it was geared towards people that did the prep course. I remember when I did the JavaScript prep course, and then I took the test right after. It was pretty similar, so I think maybe that was kind of their mindset of doing the test in the first place.
Yeah. I think I did things kind of backwards. I think I took the assessment and then I took the prep course. So it was challenging for me because I was coming from a spot where I didn't know any coding. And then I jumped, like before this, I jumped into a book. I was like, I love the logic and problem solving of this. And at that point, jumping into the assessment with no coding knowledge, it was difficult, but I think it did what it was supposed to do in weeding out people who weren't going to take it even remotely seriously in the beginning and not do any sort of research or prep work to get into it.
I really like that. I'm not going to go into depth with this, but sometimes you just get differing opinions on whether a coding bootcamp should be exclusive like that or not. I lean towards being more exclusive because it doesn't exclude you permanently. It just says you're not ready just yet to be successful or stand a higher chance of being successful with our program. And I think that's the way to look at it. And a lot of coding bootcamps that are exclusive like that do have a harder technical screening, they produce software engineers that actually get placed in the software engineering industry. And that's what matters, right? It's the whole point of, for the most part, going to a coding bootcamp. So I'm really, I like that about LearningFuze. Let's jump into the curriculum. But before I forget, what's the stack that everyone learned in LearningFuze? The tech stack.
I learned a Pern stack, so Postgres, Express, React, and Node.
Yep, that's the basic stack. I think Postgres, Express, React, and Node. Heavy JavaScript focus. I remember them talking about wanting to be T-skilled based, so they really focus on the JavaScript side of things while also exposing you to some database tech, some backend with Node and Express, and then getting you into a user interface framework like React.
So, okay, it sounds like the top part of that T was no database, backend stuff, and the depth was maybe JavaScript fundamentals and React. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
I would think
interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, let's dive into that. What do you think of the curriculum?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I can't really compare it to other curriculums. I can really only compare it to how the curriculum served me coming out of the program. And beyond just the fundamentals that they drill into you with learning JavaScript, and it goes through good practices like having cleanly indented and well-named variables in your code. They want to make you a developer that other people are happy to work with and not frustrating to work with. I think that those development practices are really what stood out in the curriculum to me. And the idea that they're helping you learn to learn so that when you come out of the program, I felt more comfortable jumping into tech and libraries that I didn't know before. So that part of the curriculum has been the most helpful.
Yeah, I want to echo that, where Michael said about they taught us how to learn, to be a learner. And I think when I think of the curriculum, I thought it was informative, well-paced, and I think it was well-guided as well. I don't think they spoon-fed us the answers. I think they really challenged us to first, like, find an informative answer for ourselves and then present it to them, ask them, hey, is this right? Is this a good practice and whatnot? Because I think that's what's going to help them grow as a developer. And this idea of self-learning was drilled into us, basically. And I even remember like during final projects, like during our course, we didn't go through hooks in React, but like some people had to learn it for like Material UI framework because they wanted to use it for their final projects. So they went ahead and did it themselves because we were already trained to learn and read documentation well.
Okay. Okay, so they didn't teach hooks. Did they go over functional components, or did they lean more on class-based components with React? Or
Yeah, and they tried to make a distinction between using class and function-based components, where class-based components, if you're utilizing state and changing state, that is where you would want to use a class component. And this is, of course, without understanding how hooks work. And then if it's a simple component that is just taking in properties and using those to render, H1 elements or something like that, then functional components are like the way to go. So, I guess the first half of the course is very much like JavaScript fundamentals and things like that. And the second half of the course, in those last 7 weeks, is where they start introducing React and leaning on those JavaScript fundamentals to help you pick up the React stuff quickly.
Okay. So the second half is 7 weeks. How long is the program in total?
Program, I believe, well, it was originally 12 weeks, but since COVID, they extended it 14 weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I attended in last year, January. And so that's when they said 12 weeks. And then that's when COVID happened and they just sent us home the last like 2 weeks. And then they felt it was unfair for us to just be sent home like that. And they extended the program by 2 weeks. So 14 weeks.
Good for them.
Really appreciate it. That was good. But I know, Michael, you weren't there in person, but like I was talking to one of the TAs, and the way the course is set up is so there's the junior side, there's a senior side, but the junior side is pretty lenient in the way people ask for help. I know they always say, oh, if you have need help or have a question, Slack them like this format. I have this problem, I'm doing this, I'm getting this, and I'm trying to get this. They're like teaching you how to ask questions, like ask a senior developer for help. But the way junior side was set up is like it was pretty lenient because like the way the TA explained to me was we're getting people from all sorts of backgrounds. They don't know how to be developers, and we're trying to wean, those bad habits or non-developer habits. And once you get to the senior side, they're a lot more strict on the way you receive help and ask for help. So it just like helps you transition into a better developer and asking for help.
Yeah, that was absolutely my experience as well. In the beginning, feel free to ask them any questions. You can jump into like their Zoom room and just shout it out to them. They'll be like, okay, well, let me help you here. We'll go into a breakout room. But after that, you need to go through a process, and they try to make sure that process is as work-like as they can get in an education setting.
Yeah. So Jerry, did you graduate before COVID started? No. You said you were in the middle of it and they extended it 2 weeks, but you started before COVID started, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like there was a difference between their in-person and online program that you noticed?
I think definitely yes. Like even though like the last 2-3 weeks was remote, like I felt they offered really good service, and like they were really prompt with answering your questions. But like being in person and remote was like way different. You're not getting the full experience. When you're in person, it's about the connections. You're building connections with your peers. That's the main thing, and then you get to know everyone differently. I feel like when we were remote, it's just there was this disconnect between everybody. Like my classmates just didn't weren't communicating anymore. We We try to like make a Discord to like get everyone like to meet up, like, you know, before class, after class, but just wasn't happening, you know. I know, and then like during break time, we had this tree that we all hung out, and like a lot of the smokers went to that tree, and that seems like a bit like we missed out on that too. Like, I'm not like advocating to the smoke, but it's just like that's where everyone went during break time. Like, I was speaking to one of my instructors, is like, this is the spot where I don't get Wi-Fi or reception, so I don't have to like answer questions. You know, it's just like you have to like really disconnect. You know, like can't keep grinding it. You know?
Yeah, I agree, and I think everything that you said is reasonable. What do you think of this idea for a suggestion for all these coding boot camps that have to go remote now? Before the class starts for the day, everyone hops on Discord for half an hour. Everyone loads up Among Us. You play a few games. Do you think that would divide the class or unite them?
Depends on your group, man. I mean, I've seen that game like destroy families, ruin friendships.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Jerry, it's really interesting because I was in the cohort right after Jerry. We did the prep course together, which was interesting, but I think they were filled for January, so I had to go in February. So I did junior side in person, and then I think around week 7 we had to go remote because of COVID, because that's when the stay-at-home order happened. So I spent all of senior side, which is 6 weeks or 7 weeks, online remotely, and I think it really varies per cohort, but I think like the remote experience for me, I think it was really good. And I think our class did a really good job in being connected together, even afterwards. Like once 6 p.m. hit, there was something called like after hours, which someone would just like set up a Zoom call and everyone can hang out there, do whatever they want, talk and be chill with each other. And I think we kind of, I don't know if it's just because it's a culture change between each class, but I think for myself, like, it wasn't really much of a detriment to my experience. I think if anything, it amplified it because we wanted to grow closer together. We wanted to talk with each other because we couldn't do that in person.
Interesting. Okay. So your cohort saw the necessity of actually staying connected with people, realized how much of a detriment it actually was. It is. This goes beyond coding boot camps. I think everyone has struggled to stay connected. We need human touch. We need humanity. We're built like that. And so, but hang in there. It's hopefully going to be resolved sooner than later. But it's really tricky. And a lot of coding boot camps are struggling, transitioning to remote. And every coding boot camp does it a little bit differently. And I don't think it's on the coding bootcamp, like it's something against the coding bootcamp just because the culture changes for the worse. And I think you're going to see that a little bit. But I think what's important is that people recognize that there is going to be a difference. And like you said, Kevin, you have to put the extra effort in to stay connected. And people are struggling even just to connect with coffee chats. And people feel like, you know, why reach out to people on LinkedIn? It's not the same thing. And they struggle because, we've been training ourselves to get comfortable in person, to present ourselves in the right way and make strong connections in person. And no one's been prepared for this. But I think it is important that you realize that. And you ask questions in developer communities about how to go about it, but reach out on LinkedIn. I'm telling you, like, the only way I've kept sanity from this whole thing is these podcasts. Like, I love these podcasts. I get to meet new people all the time, and I make an extra effort to constantly reach out to people. And that's what's definitely helped me get through this. But as far as the curriculum, it sounds like they really focused on the JavaScript fundamentals really well. And that's good to hear because people underestimate how much they're tested on those fundamentals. Even people that don't like whiteboard interviews. They don't like these data structures and algorithms. A lot of it's looking at jobs like do you understand the fundamentals of the language that you're being tested with? Do you understand, fundamental programming concepts and data structures? And basically, how do you apply that to solve a real problem? So, +1 for LearningFuze with that. I think, Michael, when you described, like, there used to be, and I don't know, everyone has different opinions, but there used to be this difference of when you would use a class-based component versus a functional. And a lot of it was state and lifecycle events. And it's become more of a conventional conversation. It's become more of an opinionated conversation. But I would say LearningFuze needs to consider changing the curriculum to really emphasize a lot of functional-based components, because as I'm talking to software engineers that continue to go into the industry, it's important. Coding bootcamps are lacking that. And they don't really put enough emphasis on hooks. A lot of people come out of coding bootcamps, even in 2020, not knowing what a hook is or how to use it. And so maybe that is something to supplement right now with the LearningFuze. Mm-hmm. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it definitely does sound fair. I every once in a while I talk to like some of the instructors or the career services people, and try and get a read on like what's happening with LearningFuze. And one of the benefits about boot camps that they've told me, and I've heard from other people as well, is that their curriculums can change to keep up with the times. And it's crazy to think that the curriculum that they're offering now might not be the same even like 2 months from now. Like maybe they will add React hooks and things like that. Okay. And I think, I guess for people going into boot camps, it is probably something that you want to talk about with whoever is either interviewing you or you're contacted getting into the boot camp. Really going over what those curriculums entail. And if they are teaching, React, like, are you guys going to be teaching us hooks? Because that's kind of important, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. Do you feel like, Jerry, you look like you had something to say. Did you?
Oh, okay. I mean,
okay.
I'm just going off like my friend, because my friend was like 3 cohorts before me, and I believe they are making an effort to change. It's just like I don't know how they're implementing it, because I remember my friend, they taught him PHP, but they totally took that out. They thought it was like too old or something like that, and so that's when they changed to Node. But I feel like they're putting in the effort, but maybe they're just having trouble like implementing everything. I spoke to a TA like 2 months ago, and the curriculum is just totally different for the new cohorts, like compared to like when I was there. So I know they're trying, but like maybe the way they're going up, maybe they just don't have enough like manpower to like make that change fast enough. I don't know.
It almost sounds like, I wonder if they're making too big of a changes too fast. I think you need to test and reiterate. Like, I find that coding boot camps that make small changes are much more effective at integrating that into the entire curriculum. And I see some coding boot camps that are trying to be competitive and realize their curriculum's out of date, and they do make too big of changes without getting the instructors comfortable enough and time for them to like be able to transition from like this old React curriculum to this new React curriculum. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But sometimes, unfortunately, you have a bad cohort and it's a testing cohort for a new curriculum. And it happens. And sometimes that's what the coding bootcamp needs. They need to drastically change like that. What was I going to ask? Oh, so it sounds like you really focus on JavaScript fundamentals and put a lot of time into React, less time into Node. Do you feel like this coding bootcamp produces stronger front-end developers versus back-end developers?
I'd absolutely say that they produce stronger front end than back end developers. My back end experience was coming out of the program. It allowed me to set up a website that can query a database and draw information from that database and change information in the database using a Node Express server. But I think some of the file manipulation, so like writing data to files, or creating files to add information to, reading and writing streams, we didn't go over that so much during the curriculum. And there's we didn't go over, we went over using middleware, but not writing custom middleware. And there's probably other stuff that I don't even know what they didn't teach me. But they teach you what you need in order to get a website up and running using Node, but not delving too far from that point.
Okay. Does that sound pretty reasonable, Jerry and Kevin?
Yeah, I agree exactly with Michael. I feel they focus more on the front end ish, and I think more of the back end. We spent a few weeks on it, but I think like not enough for me to confidently say like out of the bootcamp I'm a back end developer. So I think I had to supplement that for myself as well.
Okay. All right. That sounds pretty good. I do feel like, I'm also an advocate of you're more of a front-end developer, you're back-end developer. You can call yourself a full-stack developer, but all full-stack developers usually prioritize one over the other, at least a little bit, whether they want to admit it or not. Maybe that's a controversial opinion. I don't care. That's what I believe. So a coding bootcamp that does emphasize on one side, I believe in specialization. I like the T model. I think that's a really good idea. So that's another +1 for LearningFuze. What do you think of the instructors?
Wonderful.
Honestly, they're great.
Yeah.
I think never once did I doubt their ability to teach me. I think I think the senior side, there's one specific instructor, and then on the junior side, there were 3 dedicated instructors for us. And I feel like I focus a lot on character. I think that's just who I am as a person. And I think one of the lasting impressions that I had was the first day of boot camp. They all came up on the stage or the front of the room and just introduced themselves. But I think when the business executive said that, every day we say to ourselves that we're compassionate, caring, and accountable, they said that during their everyday staff meetings, they say that or they uphold that. And I think for myself, I believe that to be totally true. And I think on the reviews and all of the TAs and everyone, I think they did a really good job in really just training us to be developers, especially from a career change. I think from someone that didn't know coding at all to going to this boot camp, I think I never once felt criticized badly or negatively. I think it was always positive motivation to continue on and carry on, even and especially when it was hard.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. These instructors have been the most open instructors I have ever met. You can talk to them and ask them questions outside of their normal office hours. And I know Tim D will right away sometimes just be there with an answer to a question, or is willing to jump into a conversation on you on Slack, with you on Slack. And it feels like they are really there to help you, as opposed to this is their job. They're there to get you through the material and move on with their day. They want you, it feels like they want you to succeed. And that shows through the level of assistance that they get you when you, that they give you when you do need that assistance.
Compassionate, caring, and accountable. I'd be curious if they actually said a mantra before the day started like that. So a lot of people think it's silly to do that. I think they underestimate how effective that is. And has anyone ever tried that? Just like in the morning, saying kind of like repeating a mantra?
Yeah.
Have you tried it consistently and seen some evidence towards it working?
Yeah, it's what is it? Positive reinforcement for yourself. You can't have that negative talk. If you're gonna say like I can't all the time, you're it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have to be positive. I feel like I don't know what his role is. I guess he is the CEO, Bill. I just like dealing with all the instructors and how much they so passionate about teaching. I remember like, I don't know, like the third or fourth week, I believe I was just walking in the hallway and what he said to me was, welcome home. And that really shocked me. I was just like, I guess this does really feel like home. I spent like 10, 11 hours there, like, class is only like 8 hours or whatever, but like you're still there afterwards because there's still like the whiteboard that we do afterwards, or we just chill afterwards and just, get to know each other. But when that line really got to me, he said, welcome home. Like, I was just like, dude, I felt that. Like, I know Tim D he's a lot more like, I guess he's not as open as like Cody, but like, I guess because he's on the senior side. But I realized, I think that's just his class self. Like, because like, I know when we're outside, he's just like way more social. But like, I feel like the instructors, they just put so much, like, they're just so passionate about teaching. Like they want everyone to succeed. Like I don't know how.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's like an important distinction too. It's not just that they're passionate about coding, and they are very knowledgeable about coding, but I think they see themselves as instructors primarily, and then their coding experience supplements and enforces that instruction.
Yeah, and I think they generally just want you to succeed as a person. I think I remember Cody, who's in the junior side, one of the instructors, he just said that like, yeah, we're here for you to succeed. And I think that carried on both the first half and the second half of the program, even after too. Even I know we'll probably talk about job assistance and stuff after, but they always ask like, oh, how are you doing? Or if I update them how I'm doing, they would respond like within a day. So I'm really glad for that.
Okay. Welcome home. That's really interesting because the thing is, you could have taken that an entirely different way. If you didn't really have the relationship with the instructors and the staff, that welcome home wouldn't have seemed like it was truthful. It's kind of like a quirky, weird thing to say because we don't think of coding boot camps as our home, but they made such an effort to make it feel like a home that when they said it, it had such an impact that they made you actually feel like it was your home. You were part of that. And that's huge. And it's interesting because I think good coding boot camps and caring instructors, without students realizing it, take little steps. You have to make an effort to like have that be such a positive impression, but they take such little steps in everything that they do and how they design their curriculum to make that feel like a home. And people that can say that about their coding boot camp, to me, that's what my coding boot camp was like. And I sometimes in these reviews, I hear a coldness, a distance in the way they describe a coding boot camp, like it was just there for learning. It was a tool to get a job. And I also hear warmth and caring in their voice when they talk about the experience, and it was a community that they felt a part of. Maybe that's what makes a good coding boot camp, excellent versus alternatives. But that's just interesting. Okay. So you already mentioned the job assistance. Let's jump into it. what kind of assistance did they provide when you did graduate? How'd they help you find a job, or how are they currently helping you find a job?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the job market right now, and what they offer is, I assume it's what a lot of people offer, the resume assistance, where they'll look over your resume and touch it up, not for you or with you, but they'll tell you points where they would like to see improvement, and you go back and you make those improvements and you come back to them. And they offer cover letter help. So if you show them a cover letter, they'll help you go through that. Some of the aspects where they'll go above and beyond is I've had the career services people come back to me and be like, hey, I've got this position from like one of my contacts. Is this something you'd be interested in? You're like, hell yeah, I'd be interested in that. And they're like, cool. I sent your resume to them. And they're on the lookout for jobs for you. And it feels personal, even though I know that he's doing that for like however many other students that we have in the job market at the time. And they'll do mock interviews with you if you've got an important interview coming up and you're like, hey, TJ, can you make some, do you have some time? TJ, and sometimes he'll drag Cass along with him. They'll be there to give you mock interview behavioral questions or technical questions, depending on what you're saying that the interview is, and they'll walk you through your answers. I remember they put me on the spot with a salary question that I was not actually prepared to answer for, and they really drilled me into like what I thought I was worth for these jobs. They're like, you don't want to just like throw out any old answer, because that's not going to impress them. It's not going to make a lasting impression. This is how you make that lasting impression. And I remember that being kind of tense, because it caught me so unawares that I was so unprepared for this question. But they helped me through that. So those are, I guess, the services that they offer beyond just the general community and the job search community, where they'll post jobs that people are looking for, and you can get in contact with other people who are looking.
Yeah, and what I really appreciate about the program was embedded in their program, they talked a lot about networking. At least bi-monthly or weekly, we would have like a seminar on networking, or changing your LinkedIn, or these other things. And alongside that, there were also lunch and learn events. So a speaker outside of LFC would come to give a talk about something, whether he or she was a software engineer or a networking person. I think their portfolio completion process was pretty comprehensive. I know they had like a basic approval and then an advanced kind of final approval. So just to make sure that your portfolio was up to date and good to go. And I know even now they have a dedicated Slack channel called Job Search, where the career services person, TJ and Cass, they post regularly about jobs, and you even have the option of morning stand-ups with graduated students if you want to. And I think on Fridays they have job search webinars to talk about topics related to the job search. So I think even after we graduated from the program, I think still very much connected.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like they offer more than they offer like the mindset too, like because every once in a while, like every once in a while, I guess Cass takes over the call on Fridays and makes it more personal about developing a healthier mindset. I guess like it's due to COVID or whatever, but like it's hard to grind, look for work every day and just be rejected. And it's just like you kind of like feel down about it, and every once in a while she'll have the fireside chat and she'll talk about like gratitude or like a healthy mindset, like self-development, that's really helped a lot too. I really enjoy those.
Okay. This feels like a holistic approach to helping you grow as a person and a developer once you graduate. That's really important. I think they have that down. Just hearing your experiences, I think they care about you. I think they want to see you succeed. And, here comes the analytical or cold side of me. That's great. That's a huge part of the coding bootcamp. But you also have to look at how long has it been since you've been looking for a position. And the reason why I really emphasize this is because as you go through interviews, as you're tested, as you continue to get rejected, it can be incredibly defeating if you let it be. If you really let it be. And what I encourage you to do is you have to kind of analyze that. If it's been 6 months, if it's been 9 months, and you still haven't found the position that you're looking for, what's missing? What could you supplement? What approach could you change towards applying to that position? So here's my challenge to you. Do you feel like LearningFuze underprepared you in any area that you feel like you've had to supplement, or that you feel like has given you a little bit more of a struggle in the job search?
I think that they touched on data structures and algorithms. And I think this is going to be kind of like a problem that you'll run into with a lot of boot camps unless they're focused on data structures and algorithms. Usually data structures and algorithms are thrown in as like something at the end that they expose you to, so that it's there. And then you're kind of just left off to the races to figure that stuff out on your own. And it's an important part of the job application process. A lot of positions that are coveted positions at tech companies, places where you'd want to work, they want that data structures and algorithm knowledge. And it's an area that I wish that I have needed to supplement outside of LearningFuze. And there's the whiteboarding wizards chat in Slack where every Wednesday they'll go over whiteboarding problems. But that isn't quite the same as learning data structures and algorithms. It's a great place to practice in a great community of people to get that practice going. But you still need to learn that outside. And so that, I think, is an area where they can touch on either during the program, which is kind of hard because you're trying to cram everything into 14 weeks. Maybe even outside of the program, have something a little bit more instructor focused that can be like a data structures and algorithm weekly or something like that, where they go over new concepts.
Okay. Does that feel pretty fair? Would you both echo that statement?
Yeah, I would. I think, I think even the cohorts after me, before me, we're kind of also talking about data structures and algorithms that it's kind of hard to place in the program. So I think I really agree with Michael. I feel like, I think if there's any one thing, and I have like not a lot of improvements I would talk about for LearningFuze, but I feel like the data structure and algorithm part could be something to be improved if they have not done so already.
Okay. Let's dive further into this. And Kevin, I actually want to challenge you to come up with something, because you seem like you had a great experience. You're a very kind person. So I'm really going to push you a little bit. What could they do better? And we're going to move on from the data structures and algorithms. So what else could they do better?
Oh, man.
This is fun for me, by the way.
Yeah, Don, it's hard because I was actually thinking about this week. I was like, I genuinely can't find a lot that I can say besides the data structures part, like that I could say could be improved. And Jerry, Michael, like if you guys have anything, maybe you can say it and I can say after, but it's really hard. I think also just because I don't have knowledge of other coding boot camps, I don't know how they do their things. But I think just coming from someone that went to college and everything, I think like I really can't say. I don't know as of right now.
let me introduce like I said, this is fun for me. Let me introduce a few things that I noticed, because I have reviewed a lot of coding boot camps, fortunately, and I can already see a few things. They're not keeping up to date with React. Putting someone into a front-end position that believes that class-based components are for state in 2020, even in the beginning. The class is for state and lifecycle events and functional components. They really don't have a use for that. A lot of coding boot camps are lacking that. That's one thing that I would caution. I already emphasized. They need to upgrade their curriculum with React. And it sounds like if they're really instilling that mindset and no students are challenging them, they're not really getting people comfortable with the underlyings of React and how it works. It sounds like they're just teaching you how to use it. And I think most students would recognize why class-based components, they're not the sole, like that's not what you're only going to use to be able to produce a component with state and lifecycle events. It sounds like they produce weak backend developers. Am I correct in saying they advertise for full stack developers?
Yes.
Okay. So most full stack developers are stronger in the back end, weaker on the front end. Front end is a little bit easier to supplement. They went the opposite direction. I think their marketing, technically they're doing full stack, but they're producing full stack developers that might not be competitive in the market. And I would really encourage a lot of people graduating from this program to apply to front end. I think you're going to do better. I think if your resume specializes in front end, focuses on front end, and you're applying to front end positions, you're going to stand a better chance. I think that they dropped the ball a little bit converting to the remote. There are a lot of things that you can do to make people feel welcome, included, and getting people to connect. The Among Us game is a really silly example, but like little stuff like that, doing game nights. And, I've done things like this, like even, if everyone's over 21 or whatever the legal age is where you drink, having a drinking night and playing some video games or just chatting or just like doing silly stuff. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot of effort. Sometimes it just takes promoting the right social person within the cohort to take charge of these events.
I wanna just say that they do that.
Okay, good.
Because every so often, I know Tim just does like, oh, it's lunchtime. Who wants to play Super Smash Brothers or something like that? I know he does that. I don't know, maybe because I'm on Slack more often, just looking at what people say. But I know for the first week for juniors, they do the game night instead of coding on Friday. That first week. But I've been seeing it more frequent where like Tim just hops on, wants to play video games. I know also on Saturdays we play video games too, like on like 2 p.m. or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know they're trying there, but I feel like I kind of agree with what you're saying with the curriculum.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And I'm just trying to poke holes to have Kevin come up with something.
Yeah, no, I think now that you're mentioning it, I feel like when you talked about how when someone advertises full stack, they tend to produce more back end people ahead of front end. I feel like, at least for my cohort, the people that have got hired, thinking about it now, like there are more front end positions. I know there are some that do the back end too, but I think overall, generally people are more front end. Don't quote me on that, but I think I have a sense that that's what it is. So yeah, thank you for telling me about that.
Awesome. I really had to pull that out of you too, so I know.
Yeah, that's good.
It came from everything I've been saying. But the reason why I challenge this so much, first of all, right now in my mind, LearningFuze, as far as the community, which is a huge part of it, and making you feel confident and prepared for the workforce, they're shining with that in my eyes. They really are. And I really don't believe in 100% positive experience. I don't believe in that for any coding bootcamp. And most people have a gut feeling that when they hear that, it's a sales pitch. So that's why I challenge this. That's why I have this little section.
Got it.
Anything else they can improve?
I've found that trying to go back and access some of the material that we used to learn, it's there on GitHub. I would like to see that be a little bit easier to navigate. Maybe having it be on their website and you can log in with a student login and go to some of the areas. And I mean, maybe they do have that, but it's not advertised to the point where it's something that I can easily navigate and find some of the old curriculums. So I think though, that area, being able to go back and easily grab past material, as opposed to having to kind of do a little bit of digging through their GitHub repos. And then I would actually like to see some sort of direction after class of areas to supplement what we learned in class. I would love to see something like, here's what we didn't teach you in the back end, and some more resources for supplementing your learning without having to go out into the wild blue yonder and find it for yourself, which again, they give you the tools to go and learn whatever technology and library you want to learn. And they, we went over reading and writing files in Node, but you really have to dig in order to figure out what's the difference between read file and read stream, things like that. So maybe an aggregated resource tool that you can use to supplement your learning would be some areas that I would probably improve. I love the program, love the curriculum, love the instructors. But like you said, nobody's perfect. No boot camp is perfect. And I would love to see LearningFuze grow as a community and as a learning platform. For my benefit, really.
I love it.
I love these tools. Yeah, this is for me and also for everybody else.
I like that. Anything from you, Jerry?
Not that I can think of right now.
Nothing that'd be different than what they mentioned?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you agree with what Kevin and Michael mentioned for feedback?
I do agree. Because I have other friends that went to other coding boot camps, and they just talking about my experience and their experience, they drill more data structures into them than how LFZ.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay. So I think we can solidify and summarize. That's what you might want to supplement. A little bit of back end. I would love to see them provide supplemental information materials. A lot of coding boot camps do it. It's usually not very time intensive for the instructors. It's usually helpful for the instructors, but even just taking a few hours to come up with some resources, I think it'd really go a long way. But overall, the experience sounds really good. And one of the biggest things is making you feel included and making it feel like a home. And I mean, that's really, if you can make it feel like a home, you can make it feel like a community that you belong to, that coding bootcamp is going to be around a long time. As long as they manage the business well. I could be completely incorrect about that. But that is a shining example that I see with very successful coding bootcamps. So if we had to end this with one final piece of advice for aspiring developers, what would it be?
I think that if you're somebody who doesn't know if they want to get into development yet, or you know that you want to be a developer and you're looking at these coding boot camps, I do think that you should take some time to really figure out what it is you want to do with development. Because LearningFuze produces, I think, pretty good front-end web developers and with like that back-end supplemental experience. But I don't have like C++ knowledge, and I can't like jump in and be like, yo, Blizzard, hire me. I'm going to be a 3D modeler. So figuring out what you want to do with your web development will help you pick a boot camp that caters to that development style.
Okay. That's pretty good advice. Anything else? For the record, I know I'm putting you on the spot. You didn't prepare any of this. I get it. Let's come up with one more. What's one more piece of advice we can give? That, like, think about like when you were first learning and you were first getting into development, what would be something that you would have wanted to hear to shape your direction to be a good experience and as efficient as possible in becoming a developer?
I think I don't know how to like really develop this, but you really have to be like curious or interested, like learning something that you're really, if you can make it fun for yourself, it just sticks in your brain easier. If you could just like, I remember just learning about lifting weights. Like I messed up all my joints because I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. After all those failures, I'm like, let me hop onto YouTube and just like learn. And then like spending that time on my own just learning, it just sticks way easier. Like, so if you could develop that mindset of coding, so every once in a while just hop on a YouTube or whatever platform you use to learn, I feel like it'll just stick in your brain easier. Just don't be afraid of fail. Just be curious.
I really like that. You guys know what Flexbox Frog is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was one of the like resources that they pointed to us when we were learning about Flexbox. Actually,
that was smart of them. I like that. I wish I would see more games like that. And
Flexbox Zombies, I think, is another one. I don't know that that's the name of it, but you're playing this guy and you have a crossbow and you have to be able to use Flexbox correctly to target the zombies.
First of all, developers, you are amazing. Keep making this stuff. This sounds awesome. Okay, that's really good advice. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Let's go ahead and do our outros. But first of all, before we do that, thank you. I love to hear your experiences, and I felt like they were unique to the Coding Bootcamp, and I definitely appreciate you coming on. But Kevin, if people wanted to reach out to you, where could they reach you?
Yeah, for me, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I know you'll probably put links in the description below whenever you post this, so feel free just to send me a message. I'd always love to talk for any opportunities, but also just if you're interested to be a developer, would love to set up a conference with you just to talk, and yeah.
All right, very cool. Thank you. And for me, leave a comment below. What do you think of this episode? Do you agree, disagree? Do you want me to ask different questions, or do you really, because I keep experimenting with questions, did you really like a specific question that I asked? Let me know. Keep the feedback coming in the comments. This is how these episodes continue to get better. Hopefully they're getting better. But Jerry, what about you?
I guess the best place to reach me is LinkedIn, and I'm always down to chat. I'm really down to just learn about people's stories. If anything, I feel I resonate with the book, The Alchemist. It's just all about this journey, I don't know if you ever read that book. Really short.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Alchemist. I'll keep that in mind. Thanks for the suggestion. If anyone ever if you've heard of The Alchemist, you've well, not heard of it. If you've actually read it, let me know. What do you think of the book? Because I usually go by a lot of recommendations before I read a book, but I want to hear your thoughts. All right. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, like Kevin and Jerry, I'm also on LinkedIn. But feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm down to go on like a Zoom or a Google Meet, talk about either my experience at the boot camp or my experience in job search, or some of the projects that I'm working on and what I'm trying to learn coming out of the boot camp. My email is also in the LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email if that's more your your speed. And also, I think check out my GitHub. Check out the code that I'm writing now, as opposed to the code that I was writing at the beginning of the program. GitHub is Michael Poole LF, and yeah. If you think it's garbage code, tell me that too, so I can improve.
I love that willingness for honesty. I really like that. All right, really cool. Everyone, I hope you like this code review for LearningFuze. We're going to continue doing more reviews like this. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. This is Michael said. I appreciate both sides of that feedback. But Kevin, Jerry, Michael, thank you so much for hopping on. Really appreciate your feedback. Love to hear your experiences. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.